So that's our starting point. Storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most fundamental and important parts on anything that you do. And I will take you through the building blocks of what storytelling is. So most people will describe me the way that you have heard, like according to what I have done. What they don't describe me as is what I actually am. Right? So people see a byproduct. This is why people will see, for example, yesterday I signed an MOU with ZIFA. And the MOU with ZIFA is for me to create fun experiences around the Warriors. Now I know what most of you are thinking, fans in the stadiums. No, I work in rural tourism. People who have been left behind are fans in the rural areas. They don't get to follow the Warriors. And yet most of our footballers come from the rural areas. They come from the dusty plains of the villages. So now if you're not showing them the football, then how are you going to keep reproducing this talent? And so nobody has been looking at them for years. And so FIFA jumps at the opportunity because I work in rural tourism. Remember, I'm a tool. I don't look at myself as rural tourism and people think it's about people staying in villages. No, I'm talking about how to bring people into the villages. So picture this. You wake up in the morning, rural B&B has slaughtered a goat or a cow in the village. They've brought a sponsored kit from people in the diaspora, people such as yourselves who have donated money to pay for a kit. Kids are playing soccer the whole day. We've inflated a giant screen at a growth point. We're showing the Warriors matches. Everybody in the village enjoys it. But I brought a bus of people from Harare or Bulawayo to come into the village to watch soccer in an atmosphere where they can actually benefit. But how do they do this? Through an app where they pay subscriptions and they can get to come and experience rural tourism. Building the communities, getting more stars, making sure that the Warriors actually play better football. That's the power of storytelling. Storytelling is a way in which we can solve problems. In fact, storytelling is prophecy. Storytelling is the ability for us to be able to project what God wants us to do in the future, right? So the first thing, how do we build a story? The first thing that you need to understand is, what are you about? Who are you? What are you? Have you sought that out? Most of the times you do something and you think you are what you have done, but you don't understand who you were made to be, i.e., what were you created to be. A lot of times people don't get this, and it's a very, I come from Bulawayo. One of the things that we do very well in Bulawayo is we are very strong on community, but when one of us excels, we're very quick to pull them down or to kill them. Now, why does this happen? It happens because our beautiful city is called the place of the king. This is very important. This is very, very important because unless you understand where your history is, our history comes with a lot of betrayal. Shaka was betrayed by those around him, and consequent kings and chiefs were betrayed by those. And that's what built the ecosystem that we have today. Now we have to decode it and start to think, how do we change it? What are we here to do? We are here to create life. So yes, our history then talks about Bulawayo and whatever it is, but we have to find a way that we figure out as Bulawayo how we're going to start building better narratives, changing the different words that we have, like Emakandeni, those kind of things that, again, are communicating a different thing. So remember, storytelling is very important. Who are you? So understanding where you come from is very easy to figure out where it is that you're going. So you understand that, yes, there were a lot of killings, there were a lot of things that are bad that happened. However, it was all done to build a nation. So there are always two parts. There's a duality to storytelling, a good and a bad. How you align yourself to the good is in understanding what the tool is. Remember what I said. If you're a tool, if you're a knife, you can be used to kill, but you can also be used to cook. You can be used to do good things. Do you understand? So there's a duality of understanding what kind of a tool you are. So once we've understood what tool you are, so for example, for me, when I am in the market, I am a storyteller. I merely find the right tools, and we'll talk about the tools a little bit later, the right tools to be able to tell my story. So I know that I have a story. I'm a little boy who was born to a mother and father who are, my dad is Derele, my mother Sean, right? They're both late. But my father was a woodwork, technical graphics teacher at Founders in Gifford. my mother was a home economics lecturer, fashion and fabrics, food and nutrition. Hence, you understand why I become a stand-up comedian, a graphic designer, and a chef, because I have understood where I come from. I have a genetic pool that genetically predisposes me to these talents, whether I like it or not. So sometimes you're not looking at your ancestry, because maybe someone told you that it's an un-Christian thing, but by the way, when you read your Bible, it's all about ancestry. It's a passed down knowledge from generation to generation. Africans are the only ones who don't respect that, hence God doesn't respect any of our plans. Because we don't respect looking back at our ancestors and saying, what did they do? So therefore I am. So therefore I continue that legacy. So for me, people ask me, why did I get into stand-up comedy? Well, it's actually quite simple. I was a graphic designer in the marketing, right? Considered a genius in this particular field. I decided that my father was going to become the biggest comedian in the world, and I was going to be the son who was going to take him global. Now, my dad was too afraid to do this, and so I did a show. Actually at Tari's. Tari asked me to come and perform like one joke. I thought, great opportunity to show my dad. Dad was still afraid. Now I'm stuck. Tari's calling me every week for acoustic nights. I'm doing comedy all the time, right? And so now I've now become this thing that people are talking about, and they say, oh, Carl, a stand-up comedian, and then I do a show, big announcement. This is the time when I'm trying to figure out my lovely wife here, how do I propose to this woman? I don't have the money. I think, great plan, let me fill up 7 hours. I can afford to marry this woman if I do, right? And so I do this show, and then we do another show where I'm like, once my dad figures out, because we do the show together at Elite 400. We were going to do a show together. Once my dad got it, then I was going to push my dad. We were going to make money, and my wife and I were going to have this wonderful life with my dad doing all of the work for us around the world. Now, soon after this happens, I then go to South Africa to do comedy, and my dad dies. Right? So now, the difficulty in dealing with my dad was what sort of pushed me to get into comedy, because it became more about legacy, continuing the Ncube legacy and taking it forward. So while other comedians are trying to compete in my turf, which is the second bit about understanding who you are in storytelling, is that you cannot be copied because your mission is different. Nobody, people will say, oh, who's a better comedian than Carl? Nobody, guys, because the reason why I did comedy was because I was pushing the agenda of seeing whether or not my father could be funny anywhere else around the world. So I couldn't give two hoots who was coming before me or after me. I didn't care, because my purpose was much bigger than any of that. I wasn't trying to match myself with a comedian. In fact, when I was going on stage, and someone would say, because I have this half and half thing, half my jokes were my dad's jokes as I performed them on stage. And so I could be in New York, I could be in Mumbai, I could be in Singapore, and I'm standing on stage, and my grief gets toned down because I see a person laughing at something that my dad said. And so when you see my beard, and I'm growing my beard, what people don't understand, why is this guy, this guy is usually good looking without, why does he keep his beard? And when you see pictures of my dad, you'll understand how I've kept my life. How I've understood the idea that humans were meant to live eternal. That's why I am able to pass my dad's legacy. I can look my dad. In fact, I have people who see me perform and come to my shows, especially now, and cry, because they think they've just seen my dad. And most of you are just your parents. All of that grief that you've been feeling, that you've been like, just look in the mirror, it's your mother, your father, the characteristics are still there. Yeah. Remember that when a woman is born, she's born with all of the eggs that she's going to have. So essentially, your mother gave birth to her grandparents. Grandchildren, if you get what I'm saying. Because when you were born, the eggs that would then make you. So God is constantly showing us our ability to live forever. So storytelling is legacy. Storytelling is continuation. History only remembers those who told their stories. Which brings me to the next point. Who is this intended for? So Christians, particularly anyone who's Christian in the room, I'm speaking to you directly. This notion of saying, don't tell people your next move, is the most unbiblical concept that has ever existed. Because not telling anyone what you're working on is the same way as saying that you don't believe the vision that God has given you. Like, you are pretending that the vision God has given you is only for you. So God tells Noah to build an ark. Essentially, the ark is to demonstrate God's existence. So God wants you to demonstrate his existence by looking stupid. By looking like the person who's building something for something that doesn't exist. Like building something that is not good. You don't even realize it's going to be a problem later on. Now, Charlie and I come way back where we believe that when you're an artist, you have to do a certain number of gigs at approved venues using approved promoters to be promoted through approved media platforms, with approved journalists in an approved society with approved advertising purposes. God had different ideas. God was like, no, you guys are sitting, your audiences will sit on couches. You will bring them in one at a time. You will advertise on social media. You will write your own press releases. You will design your own posters. You will be the promoter right up to the end, including the business person. You will become the entrepreneur and you will open up spaces. You will negotiate with the various partners. You will start the programs. Do you understand? That is Noah building an ark. The idea that you can see these things into the future. Charlie and I sit back and while we watch, a lot of people look at something and oh no, we did that. We saw this coming years ago, decades ago. Charlie and I, before we were even artists, we were part of a company that was actually developing web platforms for everyone, for schools and whatever, because we believed actually the company that we're working for was that social media was going to be the only method of communication. This was way before we had even started. In fact, we had gone to governments to say, we will design all the websites for all the companies, for all the associations, and do them for free because where the world is going. This is where we were. So to understand that we were tools. So the fact that Charlie then picked up a guitar and then became an artist was not something that was foreign to me, because again, before that we were all in hospitality. So we never questioned each other and said, oh, what are you doing in hospitality? My wife was Charlie's boss at the time. Charlie then became my boss at the time. Charlie then discovered me and so on. So storytelling is about the next thing. Who is it for? It's about connections. It's not about fans. It's about connections. My YouTube channel, go through all of it. My YouTube channel and everything, my social media, it's not about numbers. Go and see. But I have managed to monetize it to such an extent that we have traveled the world maybe 3 times over. Why? Because we used our social media platforms to make connections. Right? So right now, our esteemed member from Malawi City Council, Lady Shawe, again, we met, budding poet, coming back into, I think it's a book that you had published during Ibumba Festival, when I also just started stand-up comedy. These connections that have happened later on, storytelling, what it does is then it brings people together. And it cultivates relationships. It's not about fans, it's about elevation through these connections. The connections and connecting the dots that you're making is very important. So once you are getting into storytelling for the likes, this is why you end up producing content that has no value. You're constantly, right now I sit back, I laugh. People are creating skits daily, guys. Daily. They're making skits every day. I'm sitting at home and wondering why I'm still earning revenues without creating a single skit. And yet people with millions and millions of followers are still complaining that it's hard. Why is it so hard if you've got 1 million people? I remember one artist, 250,000 likes, said he was selling his account because he didn't have money. Selling his account. He could not convince 250,000 people to give him $1. Right? Storytelling is about creating value. It's about understanding. And I'll tell you, and if anyone wants to write this down, it's very important. 7 ways of making $1 million. In storytelling. Sell something for $1 to 1 million people. Sell something for $10 to 100,000. Sell something for $100 to 10,000. Sell something for $1,000 to to 1,000 people. Sell something for $10,000 to 100 people. Sell something for $100,000 to 10 people, or sell something for $1 million to one person. Those are 7 ways of making $1 million. The next part on storytelling is to understand who you are speaking to in that regard. It will inform how you speak to them. So if you're selling something that's $1, you are not likely to be acting a particular way in order to earn that $1. And that dollar will usually take about a day to make. If you're selling something that's $10, it may require a little bit more brand, a little bit more thought process behind it, and a little bit more time, perhaps maybe 10 days to make $10. If you're selling something that's $100, you may need to make a few networks. You may need to think about it more from a business perspective, how you're going to be attracting that money. If it's $1,000, you may now need to put your name behind it. You may now need to build yourself as a particular type of human being. So for example, if I charge $1,500 to perform stand-up comedy, to get to $1,500, I now need to think about things from a seasonal perspective. So how do I use storytelling in order to earn $1,000? Remember, when I started doing acoustic nights, people would struggle to think of giving me $100. So what did I do? I invested in going into South Africa to forego the $100. Go to South Africa, sleep on the floor. This is my story. Remember, this is still storytelling. Move to South Africa, sleep on the floor, perform in South African stand-up comedy clubs for less money than I was going to get in Zimbabwe. Connect with the press in Zimbabwe to tell the story, and the corporates did not hesitate to pay $1,500. That was the story. Remember, who was I telling the story to? So everything I was doing on my tour, I was only sending to marketing people. I've now moved to South Africa. The place we are staying at, we want to call it Masoe Venture. So Masoe comes on board and says, Carl, we'll give you $2,000 because we want you, everything that you're doing, wear Masoe t-shirt in all of your shows internationally, we'll give you the $2,000 to do it. And so now the corporates are now attracted to this number. It's a golden number, 1,500 to 2,000. That's what they are actually paying. So now I start targeting. I want to start earning 10,000. So I don't think I want to earn 10,000 because of my comedy. However, when I use comedy to open doors to my other skill, which is filmmaking. So I go to the angels and I say, listen, the monitoring and evaluation, I can do some documentary work for you guys. And then they pay me that 10,000 to 20,000 to do their documentaries within that particular space. So now I start thinking, what do I do in 100,000? Where do I go to 100,000? So I start thinking startups. I'm like, okay. So I now need to start creating companies. So I've got a whole bunch of little companies that I'm creating and I'm cultivating and I'm basically just sowing the seed and just making sure at some point somebody is going to come and say, oh, you know what, I want to buy your company. What do we do instead? We create rural B&B. And through a process of fundraising, we're now at a valuation of $1 million as a company, right? And this is value. It's not money. It's not $1 million. You're hearing $1 million. It's $1 million what's in my pocket. No. It's $1 million in terms of the offers that we have already been receiving from people who actually want to buy this product off us. They want to take it from us for that particular value. So now we understand what our value is. Remember, it's the gift that keeps giving. So for you, your story has to understand how you're going to monetize at each point through its value. So I want you to think of something in terms of like, so you've got a big story, you've got a big vision. Your big vision is, I want you, maybe, can anyone just tell me what your big vision is? Don't be afraid. Tell me the biggest thing you've ever dreamt of that someone should choose one person. Anyone, just one person. Yes. What would you like to do?
All right, I'd love to grow Gobela Arts Development Agency to be in.
All right, so my name is Bob Begezela, and I'm the founder and director of Gobela Arts Development Agency, and also the singer behind the song. For me, as you are telling this story, it's like I'm watching myself on the mirror. And I'm like, okay, this is me. Okay. So my biggest dream really is to focus on the whole ecosystem of the entrepreneurial, or art or creative economy, as you've just put it. So I see myself having a Gobela Arts Development Agency hub with studios, conferences. Today I'm not just alone, and my first start was to come back home I'm 3 months old back home. I've been in South Africa for 17 years. So I'm back home now. And the first thing that I started, it was just difficult, was to set up a Gobela Arts Development Agency. And today I've got my interns with me. Them here, and that's part of it. So the first thing that I have now is in my Gobela Arts Development Hub is now a boardroom. Not a studio, a boardroom. So we meet there but I want it to grow. I want it to be a whole hub, studios, boardroom, reception, administration. That is my dream. That is my big thing to answer you.
Good. I am so happy. Just before you return the mic, what's the extent of your territory that you envisage? How far is this thing going to go? I want you to hear that from me. Right. So this is fantastic, and I'm so glad because the person walked into this room. Perfect. Walter just walked in, so I'm going to pick on you because one of my biggest lessons, especially in storytelling and digital storytelling, is actually this man here. So Walter, when I met him, was, we were one of the first companies operating this Apple, this G5, right? It was a beast of a machine. And I got into animation, and this machine died on us. One of the components died. And we had to take it to this guy here, right? So Walter opens up the machine, right? Opens up the machine and is basically just telling us, like, he goes on and on about tech that day. I don't know if you remember, but I think when I left, I used to think I understood tech, but Walter understood tech. But the main thing that I understood, that I learned from Walter, is that when he was explaining the components of my Mac and where they come from, like who's making what in the process, I understood that Apple had this ability to bring a number of different patents and ideas into one device. And so the mistake everybody makes about an Apple device is you think the device just wakes up on its own. There are companies, inventions, tools, people, artisans, craftsmen, artists, everybody contributing to make this one device, which is a product, right? So don't mistake. So for example, storytelling, what is it solving in terms of tools? Most of us are making the mistake where you don't know if you're an idea, a proof of concept, a business, a corporate, a cause, a platform. You don't know where you are. And so a lot of the times you are an idea and then you register a company. That's not where you're at. You're just an idea. Sometimes you're actually just a product feature. Do you know that somebody gets paid a royalty for the copy-paste function on a computer? It's an invention and a patent that gets licensed to all software to utilize this one idea developed by a person, code, a line of code, to allow a person to copy and paste. So all these things are compiled together. So a lot of people don't understand that the purpose of what you are doing is broken up into 3 parts in terms of storytelling. What parts do you curate? Knowing everything is curation. Picking the best of it, that's the key, curation. So if you look at, let's say Walter and Tyrone with Jacaranda, right? There's an infinite number of artists. But the value of Jacaranda is in how they curate the festival, who they choose and why. It's not even based on whether the artists are from Harare, Bulawayo, no. There is a vision that's there. There are arguments that happen in the team before they have come up. So even when you think, it's just a case that they'll go for who's popular in your eyes, it's more measured than that. So the curation process is a skill in itself and a business and is an essential part of storytelling. What parts of everything must you keep in order to tell the best story? The second bit, how you make your connections, is the collaboration. Who are you involving in your story? Your story cannot be divorced from people. Do you understand? There has to be somebody in your story. I came up through the ranks. You think, especially new artists. I always have new artists in my inbox saying, connect me with people. I'm not going to connect you. These are my people. I've established these networks. You are there to establish your own networks, your own class of people that you are going to grow with. It's important. Your struggle is the most important part of your story. Because what chapters are there? I have my own, the person who's writing my biography is sitting right here, right? All I am doing is that, right? Bullet is sitting here and he's writing my biography. I am building the story for him. Do you understand? Like every time we're building, and I'm just constantly going to his inbox, and you'll see his inbox is full of story after story after story after story. Because the bad, the good, the ugly, everything is being compiled. Because at some point, this man here is going to clean it when I die. Because he will be like, there's nobody who knows this guy intricately like I know. He's now an expert on culture. Culture is trying to become the biggest thing that it could be. And then the biography becomes, because that legacy is going to look after even my family, right? So it's very important because there are people who are part of the story. They are part of your story every time. So there's a reason why things fail in your life, so that you can be around more people. Your reach only grows. I'll give you an example, especially when it comes to your vision. How storytelling works is to break up your big idea into smaller things. So you want to be the first car manufacturer in the country, right? So how do you become that? Just like with rural planning. How do we build this $1 billion company? Our story has to start with building it using the smaller things. AI. So as a company, we just do AI visuals for people who want to build their rural homes. What are we doing? We're spreading the gospel of rural tourism by making sure our little AI company is just doing these consultations, right? When we've got our bigger picture at the top there, we then see, oh, Zifa has changed the board. So approach Zifa and we say, this rural development plan of showing games in the villages. Why? We're building everything towards rural banking. Remember, I've understood what our tool is. So everything is going to fit. Why I'm here, it fits our agenda because we know what the tool is. I'm just the blender here and you guys are just the different fruits over to make a different recipe. Do you understand? So if you're making if you want to be a car manufacturer, the first thing you need to do is start selling tires. Sell tires, sell fuel, sell the screws that get put onto the wheels of the car. Sell the indicator, sell the covers for the steering wheel. Don't fall into the trap where people say you are doing too much. Actually, you are built to do many things. Think about it. Think about it. We have an amazing mom here who, people don't know how she has to coordinate a whole bunch of people during the day before she can focus on her kids. That's already 5 companies operating, right? Because the minute I usually say, the minute you're cooking for more than 5 people, you're a catering company. The moment you're arguing every day with somebody on social media, you are already an author. Right? So rather than arguing with people on social media, I know every day I write a post that is maybe like 1,000 words. I train myself, that's what I do. At the end of the year, I compile it and I have a book. So far, I've published 10 books. I've published 10 books that I'm like selling as ebooks, right? Because I've understood one key thing. Most of us are using our story for free. They're using it for free. They're using bad things and hiding. So say, for example, my grandmother was one very beautiful Zulu woman, beautiful, careful, wonderful, beautiful woman. We used to run a shebeen in Pomona, right? So a lot of men used to come to the house, especially for one recipe. She used to put ice cream into a shake and then serve it to me, ice cold. A lot of men used to come there. But obviously, being someone who runs a shebeen, there are obviously other activities that I do. Within that, my grandmother was associated with. However, when my grandmother died, the people would in that neighborhood would use all sorts of derogatory terms to call my grandmother. What I saw was our pioneer in our family hospitality. She was attracting tourists to come for a particular thing and selling it as a product. Now forget the other products that are to be bought. So when I get called by the First Lady to go and train chefs at State House, as part of my legacy, I then put in a chibuku ice cream in honor of my grandmother. And at the highest level, I have redeemed my grandmother's name. And I built my grandmother's name in such a way that every cookbook of mine has a Mahlawani recipe. Mahlawani is the basis of rural tourism. She's the basis of that anointing for us that understands how to attract people by creating products to bring them into spaces to build communities. Mahlawani was a hub. She was a tourism hub. And this is important. Storytelling is about identity, not image. So the minute your storytelling is about creating an image, it's always going to be expensive. nobody can compete with my identity. Remember, I've already told you about my father and my mother, and now my grandmother. And remember that I'm the 30-something grandchild of 11 children from Mahlomane. So Mahlomane had 11 children, 39 grandchildren, and then 27 great-grandchildren by the time she died. And so there's been more. Now I'm a great uncle to many kids. We don't have a law home. Now, as a result of this, I have now started a company to solve our family problem. You think I'm building a company? No. I'm solving our own little family issue of not having a home in the rest of the place. Our relatives are scattered and buried all over the place. And I can't even go before God because it's like, where are your ancestors? What have you done for your ancestors? I cannot respect your future unless you have addressed your past. You've understood your past, and you're also giving the next kids a past to look to, a documented past. Now, the reason why I say this is because God gave me an interesting challenge about Zimbabwe. He's like, do you know that Zimbabweans are getting what they're praying for? Do you agree with this video? Show of hands. People who agree. Yeah, Zimbabweans are getting exactly what they are praying for. Prayer is not what you do when you're on your hands and knees. When you say, God, please, God, help this, that, and that. Because what happens is that God sends an intervention in your life when you pray. And so, when you're on social media, and you go and search what Zimbabweans are talking about, they talk about corruption, so you get corruption. They talk about exchange rates, so you get exchange rates. They talk, everything that you're talking about is what you get. Because you are not talking about a future, you're not projecting a vision, you're not projecting where you want to go. So God is like, oh, you want to talk? Because, like I said, money is none of your business. It's actually none of your business. So when you are talking and you're saying, you don't understand, like, City of Bulawayo, there are meetings daily on fixing problems. You don't work there, so it's not your business. Your business is talking to your neighbor, being a nice person, mowing your front lawn, doing everything necessary to maintain a clean house. Don't worry about what these guys are doing. They are doing the next extension. Because if you don't do your part, God won't do his part. Which comes to the next point that I'll talk about. I don't know if I still have time. Or how am I doing in terms of time? How many? Cool. Okay, excellent. Fantastic. So, storytelling, especially in the digital space, is about knowing what is your business and what isn't your business. Right? Because we all have an opportunity to tell a story. We don't know who we're sitting around. So most of you will sit in a crowd of people. How are you doing that? Zimbabwe is stress. Factionalism in Zambia. That's your story for the day. Imagine you're a magazine and you chose on your front cover to talk about something that was none of your business. Your business you didn't even talk about. Now you've sent everybody into a discussion about issues. You're talking Bulawayo City Council issues the whole day. Water, service provision, blah, 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 blah. Things that somebody else is actually working on. Instead of talking about your own business. You could be sitting here, you're wearing a beautiful dress, and somebody wanted to find out who made it, where did it come from, how can I get my own thing? But the first thing that you answer is like, business is, you can't get Forex. You can't get this. Let me tell you, if you go into my profile, you will never see me discuss anything like that. Because when tourists come into this country, they don't care about the problems of your country. They only care about how can I book to come to your country. And how the problems are solved in your country when people come to your country. So they don't come to your country if you scare them from coming to your country. So how do you solve the problem when God has put an intervention and said, here's a skill that I'm giving you. You put it under a bush and you chose to do something else. And you said, yes, because master, you're a hard master, I knew if I did this and whatever. That's what you're doing every day. You're not using the opportunity. So I go online. I'm constantly telling people my dreams. Constantly. There's not a person in this room who doesn't know what I do. Like, even after today, you know what I do. In the first 2 seconds of my profile, you know what I do. I get people, youngsters, who come into my inbox. Carl, you know, I'm a youngster, I'm passionate about cooking. Guess what? The first thing I do, I just go to your profile. And guess what I see? Liverpool's the best team in the world. Chelsea. The Warriors. We don't have a stadium. And I'm trying to find what your skill is. And yet you are busy saying, Mr. Ncube, can you please pass my CV? You are the CV. That's why you were given a name when you were born. If story was not important, why didn't we get names like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? Why do we go through a naming ceremony of giving you a name? Why do we give you a name of your grandmother or your grandfather? When I was born, I was named Carl Joshua Ncube, actually. It was 1979, getting into independence. My dad is super excited, Joshua Ncube and everything. So I'm called Carl Joshua Ncube. My grandmother walks into the maternity ward and says, what have you decided to call the name? And my dad confidently says, Carl Joshua Ncube. My grandmother cried. She said, do you know that because their father, my grandfather, was a very secretive man. His name was Samuel James. No one ever asked him what the J was. He had just died preceding my death. My birth, sorry, he had just died preceding my birth. Sorry, I died later. So everybody was still in a very sore mood about my grandmother. So my grandmother cried. He says, no, do you know that your father, telling my dad, do you know that your father used to sign J, it was Joshua? Right? So somehow prophetically, this is Joshua incarnate. Now, weird thing about how my grandmother used to name the kids. Firstborn was Richard. It was okay. Secondborn Lois. Thirdborn was this light in complexion baby who was born with a wrinkled face. He looked like a lemon. So they called him Limon. After that, there was another baby was born, dark in complexion, but you could see all the veins in his body. They called him Faye. There was a girl called Joyce who died. Then sixth born, a beautiful, handsome boy is born, right? And my grandmother names him Chance because she says this is going to be our only chance at success. We are going to invest in this child. Is our only chance. That boy was my father. I want you to understand the power of telling the story. Because my grandmother had no way of knowing. Most of us were named the thing that we became. Do you understand? Like I always laugh, my wife is known by Nelson, but the actual name is Netsai. Anyone who knows my wife knows that Netsai is persistent. Netsai no Netsai. My wife is a bulldog of names. So names are prophetic. They are the first part of storytelling. So when you are given a name, you must go back to that name and redefine or define what it's supposed to be. So my grandmother said, this boy is our only chance. The sixth born out of 11. Who then would have a son? Who the whole clan of Ncube sits on my shoulders in terms of its existence. We are extinct as we speak, unless I intervene. Nobody will know anything about my Tawani. That house was sold. Nobody knows anything. All of the kids are dead. There's only one remaining one. And there's this one grandchild, number 30-something here, who has been chosen as the line to be the most famous Ncube to come out of this entire clan. Who this grandmother had no idea, but she said this one here. And so she cried when she heard that, no, he's been named. Straight after the death of my grandfather, this boy was born. And this boy would now be, and you know, prophetically, my grandmother, right, with my grandmother, Shona, conspired to give me a third name. Beautiful name, Timilawaka. Because they knew, they said Zimbabwe will go through a very difficult time and this child will need to use this name just in case. Just in case, in 1979, they knew we were going to have an issue. And that issue is not what you guys are thinking. Because I know you guys are thinking of being children. No, it wasn't that. It was about uniting seven. It was about being able to speak both Ndebele, both Shona in a fractured country and be able to give a feel-good message that everybody could resonate with. That was my mission. That's why you see in my comedy when I'm in Harare, I'm making jokes about developing people. When I'm in Bulawayo, I make jokes about Shona. The reason why I'm doing that is because Shona and Debele in my shows, they start to talk. They start understanding a lot more about each other. They start looking at humans saying, we all think things are funny. We all unite around jokes. We all unite around food. We all unite around travel. And most importantly, even the road of the world. So this quest to find the road is something that whether you look at, whether you're in Debele or you're Shona, you then realize that, oh, we have the same needs. It's right across Africa. And that 1801 became very important. It's the basis of our business. Everything, if it's not for the love of people, we're not interested in it. It starts there. If the idea has nothing to do with loving people, no, it's not for me. That's how I know that God is not operating in my life. Because I'm like, where's the love for the people here? Because my name cannot be mentioned. Remember where your story is, your narrative is. It's very important to weave it in. A lot of people don't understand it. So my wife and I, you know what? Our core business is our marriage. Ask anybody who knows it. Our core business is our marriage. Forget about the byproducts that you guys see. Our core business is our marriage. So wake up in the morning, we have board meetings. We work together, we spend all of our time together. We don't spend any time. Because our core business is like, how does this marriage reach another 10 years? How does it reach? What's the business plan? How many of you in your marriage or your families are your family is your core business? Your family has to be your core business because you have been lied to all this time to think working with family members is called nepotism. The very people who are telling you that it's nepotism and that it's corruption are the ones whose countries are built on family businesses. Walmart is a family business. McDonald's is a family business. The US government is a family business. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Obama's, whether it's it's all family business. You guys are being told it's corruption. Yeah, you're being told when you work with young kids, it's child labor. Go onto any white person's farm today. Their child is on a tractor, managing the family business at the beginning. You guys, do you know what you do? You bring kids into the family business when you are dead, and they fight over your country to dismantle your assets, sell them off, and kill the legacy. So you don't understand that you must go back to factory settings. Nobody said being traditional means that you don't believe in God. God appeared to us. He appeared to us in different languages. That's the first thing that you have to understand. And so how we identify with God, don't confuse God and religion. These are two very different aspects. Religion is man-made. God is not. Do you understand? So once you understand God from your perspective, you then understand that we're actually all the same. Love God and love your neighbor. That is the practice of every wealthy person on the planet, is to love God and to love your neighbor. That's why a lot of philanthropy and all of that stuff happens. It's all about people. You don't build companies unless you know people. God is building you to understand. That's why you're always being cheated and people are always dismantling and people are always hating, because God is trying to make you identify. How are you going to build, for example, let's say, is there anyone in the room who wants to be president one day? Right, president. To become a president, you need to know a minimum 10,000 people. Not know them by, as in have worked with 10,000. Minimum. That's the number of people you need to be networking with now. Because they're going to be heads of industry, they're going to be heads of associations, they're going to be subcommittees, MPs, they're going to be chiefs, those are going to be the 10,000 core people you're going to deal with in order to run a country. So, how can you be complaining when you are experiencing bad relationships with people? That's God just showing you people. You need to understand, stories and narrative are going to do two things. They're going to build people, or they're going to get you into trouble. That's my next point. Stories get you into trouble. Big stories. I want you to imagine a guy called Joseph. Wakes up in the morning.
2 more minutes.
Close enough. He wakes up in the morning and has a vision of his brothers, things bowing down to him and blah blah blah. Then his brothers sell him into slavery. Then in slavery, he gets identified again because he's a special person. Then he's now working in the master's house. Then the wife tries something, then he gets put into prison. Then he gets another vision and he gives it to someone, say, please tell the king, then they forget about him. And he stays in prison. Stories sometimes, if your narrative doesn't scare you, it's not worth it. It's not even worth pursuing. Because it's not going to get you into trouble. Then I'm not going to be anybody. So don't be the person who's like, God, I want to expand around the world and not be afraid of the backlash that's going to come with it. You are going to be blacked out, you are going to be enemy of the state, you are going to be, they are going to try and destroy you at all costs, character assassinations. It's all part and parcel. It's the certification. Forget about getting fake PhDs. It's this certification that you need to know that how many companies have you lost, how much money has been stolen from you, how many people have betrayed you. That is where the story comes from. Because how else are you going to write a book? What chapter is going to exist where you say, wrote a project proposal, got $1 million, the end? Nobody wants to read that book. And so the last bit that I just wanted to talk and close with is money. None of your business. What your business is that if you list today 100 things that you want out of life, especially what you want to do, list all the things that you require. Family, friends, spirituality, business, money, all the things that you want, contracts, list them as 100 things, right? Split them into 3 things. The things that you can do in your own power, the things that you can do if you have the money, and the things that are out of your control that you don't know how to solve. These lists are going to teach you 3 things. The first is self-discipline. So your narrative is going to be based on the things that you can do. Every day, tell your story about where you're at today with no resources, whatever. I'm waking up this morning, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be pushing my vision. I'm happy that these are my friends. I'm happy for my family. I'm happy for this. These things you can do. You can exercise, you can walk around the block, you can tell that story. Whenever you have money, the second is have a list of things and how much they're going to cost. So that when you receive $15, you know what's $15 on your list to be paid. That's financial discipline. So it means whenever you convert and you make money, you are going to know what to pay for. The third list is the stuff that is not in your control. I call that the faith on the God list. That is spiritual discipline. Your ability to read the newspaper and say, that's nothing to do with me, is a very powerful thing in where you're going. Your ability to read the paper and say, oh, okay, it's closed, and just go back to what you're doing every day. That ability there allows you to stop trying to be God in your life. Because when you try to be God in your life, God stops being God. God wants you to do your stuff. God is actually busy watching you. I want you to imagine, sorry, I'm not criticizing the church or anything. I can be close, right? I'm not criticizing the church or anything. But
1 minute.
Yeah. Church, going to church and prayer is like having a board meeting with God. I want you to think about this for a second. It's having what? A board meeting with God. So you're sitting with the chairman of the company. If you're spending all your time in prayer, it means you're spending all of your time in the boardroom. Imagine how a chairman feels when an employee is not going out to do the actual work and is constantly in the boardroom. Because the chairman has things to do. Even God has things to do. God is busy. So whenever you're like, you're back again. Jeez. You're not actually impressing God by going to Him. You're impressing God when you say, God, so I want you to talk to you, please protect me. I'm going out into the world to be a better person. God is like, oh, when He sees you being a better person, He's like, all right, let me sort out the other things that she needs. Let me start aligning. Because when she goes out to be a good person, there are people that are planted around who she needs to talk to, and they're going to activate things. I want you to notice if you've ever run a business, again, another show of hands, how many times have you received money and it has nothing to do with you? It wasn't any action of yours. You're just like, I just ended up in a room, and then the deal came out. Yes, you were talented in the area, and yes, people recognize you, but it's because you had done the new things that God required you to do, which was to focus on your skill, to focus on getting better, so that when I put you in the room, you know how to stay in the room. Right? Because if you don't know how to stay in the room, your story won't matter. If that story has not been told, you won't have the opportunity to tell it because you have 2 seconds to simply say, hi, I'm Carl Joshua, and everyone will say, I know about you. I've got 10,000 waiting for you to do X, Y, Z. So your story is how it's going to connect you. Self-discipline, financial discipline, spiritual discipline. My name is Carl Joshua, and I'm an African storyteller. Thanks.
Goodness, wait. So, Carl Joshua Go, we got the real name down, right? So I don't know if you guys were listening. History only remembers those who told their stories. That's deep, I got that. And also, storytelling is about connections, not friends. So just because you got likes, you say, it's more than that. It's about the connections that you're making. So I also got that. And that you are the CV. Guys, you are the CV. That means everything about you, the way you speak, the way you look, your social media, everything about you. You are the CV. Now we can't let you go without allowing people to ask questions. I'm sure we've got a few because you took